Today we are here again to continue with the organon part. We have done till aphorism 230 and we will start with 231. Today we will not be doing many of aphorisms. We will be doing only 4 aphorisms. But these 4 aphorisms, we will try to understand the depth of these aphorisms, because in these 4 aphorisms, Dr. Henneman is trying to guide us about the intermittent diseases. What are intermittent diseases? How we have to differentiate those intermittent diseases? How we have to classify when a patient comes in front of us, either in acute condition or in a chronic disease, how we have to identify whether this is an intermittent disease or not. And then we have to prescribe accordingly. There are some methods which he have told us. We will talk about that thing. But the main thing is that this differentiation is very important. Like in the last part, we have differentiated between the true mental diseases, the true diseases, mental diseases, which are coming from the physical part. Then there are some emotional diseases. Then there are some diseases which disturb the mind acutely. Then there are some problems of the or they can be called as the mental diseases which are coming from the faulty education and which can be uh, made better without any medicine, with some kind of consolation or some kind of some advices or some guidance. So this differentiation is very necessary, because until and unless we don't differentiate what we are have to do or what we are going to do, it cannot become clear for us. We all have been coming to this point in the journey of homeopathy, because I know many of the doctors are there uh, who joined some school of thought within homeopathy. They learned homeopathy from that school of thought. So there are some concepts which are still imbibed in us, which we still retain from those schools, whatever they were teaching regarding the homeopathy. In the colleges, there are some students from India. In the colleges, what kind of things the teachers have told us, what kind of the group we have been in, what kind of things we have seen in front of us, in those, they shape our thought process, they shape our concepts. So every time when we are doing the organon, I always say that why organon is necessary. The first thing is that we should as a homeopath know whether, first of all, what I have learned, whether it is right or wrong. Organon paves a way. Organon gives us a guidance to understand that till this point, what I have been doing, whether it is right, where I have been making the mistakes, from where I can learn these things and how I can rectify so that my results improve, so that as a homeopath, I improve, my knowledge of homeopathy improves. So today, when we will be talking about this intermittent diseases, there will be few things, like we will be talking about miasms, not in a very definite, not in a very diversified way, not in a very, not big discussion, but a briefly we will talk about some things. I will discuss my experience which I had recently after uh, seeing the things as they are given in the organon. So, like I have told many times before also, that recently, just before starting this English organon classes, we had class in Hindi, the full series in Hindi. It is on the YouTube also. So we had that also. But when I spoke about these things at that time, and now I am speaking about the same aphorism, about the same things, many things have changed, many experiences have been added. Before that, when I used to read Organon, so if I compare to that part, because when you are practicing regularly, when you are going through uh, the literature regularly, your own intellect, your own understanding is getting upgraded. So when you are reading the same thing from an upgraded version of yourself, so the things they seem, some things which were not understood in depth, then you go again, then you are reading it again, and then you try to understand that, yes, okay, this is what is said in this aphorism. Okay, this is the what things I have seen in the patient. There I have made the mistake, or there, you can relate those things. So even maybe after 1 year or 2 years, when we will go through the organ again, then again maybe some, because it is an unending, endless source of knowledge. I will talk at the end about something, that will clear more what I'm trying to say. That this is an endless source. You can never reach the bottom of the knowledge which is given in the organ. I personally think so, because every time you find something new, every time you find something new, you go through it. Every time there is something, it comes in front of you, some new kind of knowledge, some questions which you have been looking at. So with that thing, with that understanding in our mind, we'll start with the aphorism 231. So aphorism 231: the intermittent diseases deserve a special consideration, as well those that reoccur at certain periods. So first of all, we have to understand what are the intermittent diseases. Okay. So what are the intermittent diseases? Those that reoccur at certain periods. There are certain periods when the symptoms are there, a set of symptom of a disease is there. Then there are periods where those symptoms are not there. An apparent healthy state is there. Okay. So we call those as intermittent diseases, the diseases or the symptoms which are reoccurring. One condition is reoccurring at certain periods. These periods can be associated with some time of the year, some time of the day, or some day in the week, some months. It can be according to the numbers, or like every alternate day, alternate month, alternate hour. So but there is certain periods when this thing happens. It can be seasonal, related to the seasons. It can be related to certain conditions. But yes, these things, they happen at a certain period. Like the great number of intermittent fevers, we'll talk about it in the aphorism 235 next time, that there are great number of intermittent fevers which come in this category, and the apparently non-febrile affections that reoccur at intervals like intermittent fevers. So first is the intermittent fever, then there are the non-febrile affections. Okay. There are affections, certain affections, for example, migraine, for example, headaches. Okay. They appear after certain intervals. They are appearing after certain days, after a week, after a month, something like that. Okay. So they are reoccurring at intervals like intermittent fevers, as also those in which certain morbid states. Then there is the third category, where the certain morbid states alternate at uncertain intervals with morbid states of a different kind. Then there are two morbid states, two sets of symptoms which are occurring or which are alternating with each other. There are some certain, at time there is a certain state with the symptoms of head. There is headache, there is some kind of congestion of the head with some vertigo or something like that. When it subsides after some time, there is an alternate state, maybe of the stomach. Okay, there is some pain in the stomach, some diarrhea sets in. So these are the alternate states. So they also come under the category of the intermittent diseases. So basically three types. Basically, there may be some other variations under these types, but basically one are the intermittent fevers, where a febrile condition is coming, a fever is coming. Okay, then we will talk about in 235 in detail, where there are certain stages like of heat or cold or sweat, then it subsides, patient becomes normal, then it comes again. Those are the intermittent fevers. Then the recurring non-febrile conditions, the conditions which are recurring, but they are non-febrile. They don't produce fevers, but they come in the same way. They are coming in the same way. They are recurring. They have intervals in between. There is a state where the patient is apparently healthy. Okay. Then third is the different states of diseases alternating at uncertain interval. There is not a certain interval. It may happen like the headache is happening in the morning and next day the patient is having gastric symptoms. Then for 3 4 days nothing is happening. He's in a apparent state of health. Then again one day he starts getting the headache, then again he goes into a state of apparent health, then the gastric symptoms may come in. So there is an uncertain intervals, the intervals are not fixed, there are uncertain intervals, but this phenomena, it keeps on happening. So we call them the alternating diseases, where the different disease sets, where the different set of symptoms, different morbid states, they're alternating. So we'll try to understand more about this. These later means we are talking about the alternating diseases, the last ones are also very numerous. So they are numerous. There is no end to what kind of state a patient can produce in his being when he is suffering from these chronic diseases. But they all belong to the class of chronic disease. So the first thing we have to understand is that either they are alternating disease, we will come to that point. So first we will talk about the alternating disease. So what we have to understand is that all these alternating disease, they are basically a class of chronic disease. They should not be taken as acute disease. They should not be prescribed as acute at that part. We usually call them that there is episodes. Like for example, a patient comes to us with an episode of migraine. So what to do at that time? Many times the doctors, they just give a bottle of belladonna to take whenever the headache happens. That is like giving a painkiller. I always say that it is better to give a painkiller. Why? Because a painkiller or the allopathic medicine or any such kind of preparation, it is more of a material dose. So material dose will only affect the material body. It will not go more deeper than that. So painkiller is taken, it produces certain phenomena, and the pain is gone. So that is what happens. But the belladonna, it is a more energetic medicine, because we have gone through that preparation, that how these medicines are prepared and the sphere of action of these medicines. And in the last part of the organon, Dr. Hahnemann will talk about the same thing, which I'm just talking about right now, which I'm sharing right now, that that these medicines, they act in a very deep state. At that time the patient might get relief from belladonna, no doubt in that. If it is a headache which has come suddenly, developed suddenly, and there is a congestion of the head, belladonna will act, no doubt in that. But if we are giving numerous doses, excessive doses of such a medicine, it can produce many other symptoms or states in the patient, which can actually affect the patient in the long run. So, homeopathic medicine should not be used as a painkiller or as a substitute. It cannot substitute that thing. It has its own quality that they can cure. Belladonna, when prescribed in a way as it should be prescribed, it will not, it will cure that headache. That headache will not come. That is the action. Aphorism 2, it has to be cured permanently. It has to go away permanently. So, what we have to understand is that we should not prescribe in those episodes for this thing. You know, even if you are prescribing, for example, the patient is coming to you and he is having this, if you are prescribing for that episode, keep it this thing in the mind that this is a chronic disease. I have to give an anti-psoriatic or anti-miasmatic medicine later on, like we have discussed in the part of the acute mental diseases, when they come as an acute attack for the first time they have developed. But if even the alternating diseases, if a patient is coming to us that the symptom has been going on from a quite long time, the best way is to go for an anti-miasmatic medicine for the constitutional medicine of the patient, because they all belong to the class of the chronic diseases. They are generally a manifestation of developed sora alone, sometimes but seldom complicated with a syphilitic miasm. Now, this part we have to understand. So, they are basically developed from the sora. In the mental disease, all through, Dr. Hahnemann has told that this is a development of sora. Okay, that was fine. Here, he has added something that seldom, not every time, but seldom. Seldom means rarely, sometimes. It may be complicated with a syphilitic miasm. Means most of the time, the alternating diseases are also a part of the developed sora. Most of the time. But sometimes you have to keep that thing in mind that it may be complicated with syphilitic miasm. Recently, I have been studying about this psychosis and syphilis from some time. I have been doing practicing it in the clinic also. Last time in the Thailand workshop, I shared some of my experiences and how we have been approaching it in a wrong way, and how Dr. Hahnemann has actually given it in a very beautiful way, that how it should be practiced. So I was talking at that time about Merck's soul, that how the Merck soul picture it should be understood. Syphilitic miasm or psychotic miasm, they are the miasms which are coming from the venereal diseases. Somewhere in the life, someone had some venereal diseases, some sexually transmitted disease, and from there this thing started. Although there is a very long explanation to that thing, I will not go into that because then we will be off the topic. But in those cases where a person has been affected by syphilitic or psychotic miasm, okay, we maybe in future, very soon, we can have an online lecture about psychosis and syphilis. We will talk about that so that we can understand more, because these things have to be, because many times when you see in the clinic, you have been given a good constitutional, you have complete confidence in the medicine, and it is removing certain parts, certain symptoms, they are being removed, they are being cured, but one part, one some part is there which is being left uncured, untouched by a very rightly selected psoric anti-psoric constitutional remedy. The part is not even being touched by that medicine. So somewhere you have to keep in mind that that might be due to the psychotic or the syphilitic miasm. That is not, I am being very clear that that is not always the case. Sometimes we have a wrong selection of medicine. Okay, it may be due to the wrong selection of constitutional or anti-psoric medicine. So there we have to differentiate again whether it is, how we have to differentiate. We will talk about that when we will talk about psychosis and syphilis. But we have to differentiate that, okay, this may be due to that thing, or maybe because my prescription is not right. Okay, because when prescription is right, like we have talked about it, that the patient starts feeling generally better. So if that generals they start becoming better, then somewhere we have that thing in mind that okay, the prescription may be right, but there might be some other hindrance. Then we start thinking about this part, this syphilitic or psychotic miasm, and then we have to verify it. You just cannot, there is no scope of speculation in homeopathy. We cannot speculate. We have to be very certain. Either we have to verify from the patient, Many times the patient, for example, I have told about one of the cases of a lady who came. She had this inflammation in the eye, a very bad inflammation, which then the eye necrosed after the inflammation, and the surgeons, they have to remove the eye, the whole eyeball. It has to be removed. It was not metastatic. There was nothing like, but it was very severe. And then the problem started in the left eye. So when it started in the left eye, someone recommended her to take homeopathy. She came to us in the clinic. And when I saw the whole process, how, again, we will talk about that thing later. I'm not going again into that, because there are certain symptoms which can guide you, which can they can tell you that this might be a syphilitic miasm or a psychotic process is going on. There are certain symptoms. So those symptoms, they were guiding that there has to be something like this, because it cannot come like this. The sora does not come like this. So when I asked her that, okay, something like this, some venereal diseases, some symptoms, there are few urinary symptoms, urinary infectious symptoms, which she told about the rashes. Uh, but again, it depends upon how the syphilitic symptoms will come, or the psychotic symptoms they start. There is a very different way about that thing. There are many different stages which we have to talk about, which we have to understand about this miasm. So she told, and I had this, that she did not had any of this affection directly. She was not the primary person who got affected. So then I started inquiring about the husband, that your husband, did he had any of these symptoms, like the basic symptoms of syphilis and some chancre or some itching or something like that? And she told no, he has never complained about this thing. But still I was, that no, somewhere, because sometimes those things, they point you, when you are going through those things again and again, when you have seen those things again and again, then there is an idea which is built that yes, this can be that. So I went with the some antisyphilitic medicine which was suited to for her. We gave her that medicine and she started getting better. All the symptoms of the inflammation, they were completely gone. She was losing the vision from left eye, which came back. It was reversed. She got better regarding her this thing. Then when she got better after 3 or 4 months, the husband came for his treatment, that he also wanted to take treatment. And then I started talking to him. He started telling his history. First of all, he told that I want to have privacy. I don't want anyone in the clinic. He told his wife to sit out. He started telling me. And then he came to this point that I also had extramarital affairs in my office. And he talked about it, that, that I had this thing. And then it suddenly struck me, although that thing was in my mind that I wanted to ask him. Then I told him that, did you had these kind of symptoms? He said, yes, I had these symptoms, and but I got treated. I immediately I took the treatment for it, and those all symptoms are gone. So this is the state of latent syphilis. Syphilis also has its latent stage, like the latent sora. So okay, I gave him the medicine again. I started with some antisyphilitic for him, and then that was a. And then after 1 or 2 months, he was trying to apply for a visa to Canada, where you have to get yourself medically checked up, and you have to go for that uh, this STD, the sexually transmitted diseases. They have to check for those virals, and his syphilis came positive. So in such cases, if recently also I had one such case of brain tumor of a lady, in which this whole thing started with this thing, and she is getting better with Merxol. So there are many cases which are coming, which, because now the understanding has opened for this thing. So, but again, coming to the aphorism, back to the aphorism, that many times these alternating diseases, they may be complicated with syphilitic miasm, which we have to verify first, either through the symptoms, the other symptoms, the history of the patient, or through direct questioning to the patient whether any kind of this thing has happened to him in the past or presently it is happening or something like this. So therefore, in the former case where it is only developed from the sora, may be cured by antisoric medicines. So in the former one, it can be cured by the antisoric, which is homeopathically suited for that patient. In the later, however, in alternation with antisyphilitics as taught in my work on the chronic disease. So, but if it is has something of the antisyphilitic miasm, syphilitic miasm in this alternating disease, then we have to alternate the antisoric and antisyphilitics, which he's saying that as I have told in my chronic disease. We'll talk about that again. I am maybe because I I have told this thing earlier also that I many times there is some students also here present who have asked me to start a series or lecture on chronic diseases, and I told them that we will start. Why we have not started is because I want to be very sure about what I'm speaking. I just don't want to read through the book or just tell. I don't want to translate what is written. Okay, that translation will not be, I don't think it will be an effective thing. I want to be very sure about how this thing happens. And like I'm told that from past few years, I have been seeing such cases and I have started speaking about that thing, more about syphilitic miasm right now. I will not talk about psychotic yet because I'm still gaining that kind of experience, or I am still uh, I have to see those kind of things happening. Then I will speak more about it. But yes, antisyphilitic, I will very soon will speak about both the miasms, but how to prescribe the antisyphilitics or how we have to understand the syphilis part, that we will talk about very recently. There are many books on the miasms. There are many literal translations. There are many translations where the miasm has been shown in some other light also. Uh, Somewhere the meaning was same. However, someone understood, they wrote about it. But again, like the organon, we should go to the chronic disease to understand these miasms as they are supposed to be understood. So we will take the excerpt because whole book reading will not be possible. But we will take the excerpts from we'll take some portions from the book and we will try to understand. And I will, after we have done that thing, I will tell you now that you have to go through the symptoms. These miasms, the syphilis and psychosis, they, you can only ask questions about that thing once you have gone through the symptoms, when you have understood the picture of the symptoms which they produce. It is different from the psoric miasm. It is different from the chronic diseases which are coming from the psoric miasm. Okay. So that is why Dr. Henneman, he always refers, wherever he talks about the miasms in the organ, he refers to his book on chronic diseases because that is where he has given the whole explanation. So we'll move to the second one. But here we just need to understand this thing, that there is a group of alternating diseases which is part of the intermittent diseases, which are coming and going. They are coming and going. One set of the symptom comes, then the other set of the symptom comes, and the other set of the symptom comes. So there are these alternating diseases, which most of the times are manifestations coming from the psoric miasm, but sometimes it can be due to the syphilitic miasm also, the complication of psora and the syphilis. So footnote to aphorism 232, Dr. Henneman, he gives certain examples. Two or three states may alternate with one another. So there might be two states which are alternating. There might be three states also in certain patients. Three set of symptoms, three morbid states which are alternating. Thus, for instance, in the case of double alternating diseases, Certain pains may occur persistently in the legs. For example, where the two diseases are alternating, two set of symptoms are alternating, two states are alternating. There is an example that there may be a persistent pain in the legs for few days, like 4 5 days, the legs are paining, etc. There might be some other symptoms. Immediately on the disappearance of a kind of ophthalmia. So there was this ophthalmia which was going on from past 1 week. Suddenly it disappeared, and the pain in the legs it started, which later again appears as soon as the pain in limbs has gone off for the time. And as soon as the pain in the limbs go away, the pain or the ophthalmia it will come back. So convulsions and spasms may alternate immediately with any other affections of the body or some part of it. There might be, like, for example, there is convulsions going on or spasms in the body going on. When they get better, the patient might suffer from some kind of urinary complaints or some kind of diarrhea or some kind of gastric complaints. As soon as that gastric complaint or that thing becomes, the convulsion or the spasm may appear again. In a case of threefold alternating diseases, where the three um, uh, diseases are alternating, in a common indisposition, periods of apparent increase of health and unusual exaltation. So, with physical some alternation, there might come a state where there is apparent increase of health. A person is unusually exalted, unusually happy, unusually energetic, unusually active. And and unusual exaltation of the corporeal and mental power. The physical and mental powers they have exalted. Okay, they have increased. Extravagant gaiety, very cheerfulness, extraordinary activity of the body, excess of comfortable feeling. He is feeling too much comfortable in his body. Inordinate appetite, an appetite which is good, very good, etc. So these kind of symptoms may occur, after which quite unexpectedly gloomy, melancholy humor, intolerable hypochondriacal derangement of the disposition. And suddenly he may alternate back to the sad state of the mind, a gloomy state of the mind, or a hypochondriacal state where he is too much anxious, sad about his health, with disorder of several of the vital operations, the digestion, sleep, and etc. So the sudden that excess of comfortable thing, the excess of health, it may suddenly derange into a very bad health. Appear which again and just as suddenly give place to the habitual moderate ill health. So that excess of increase in health will give alternate into a habitual moderate ill health. And so also so even there can be the various degrees, intensities. For example, very healthy, okay, one state very healthy, very sick, and then a little bit sick, a third state. Okay, the symptoms of sickness are there, but now less intense. There is also a state, certain symptoms are gone, certain are remaining. So the patient is basically going through all these things. And many times we see this thing happening when a person is basically going from a chronic disease, or the sora has been manifesting from a long time. These kind of states they happen. Nowadays, many these states they are not very clearly seen because of the medications which the patients are taking regularly. So somewhere we are not able to state them, see these states quite openly because of because nowadays there are medication for anything, for everything. Okay, to keep that thing in check. There are medicines for pain, there are medicines for the gastritis, there are medicines for the infection, there are medicines for the, so everything is checked. But still, through the checked state, we have to ask in the history that what happened, how frequently this thing happens, then what happens once you are okay, you take the medicine, then what happens. And from there you can get a picture or an idea of the alternating diseases or the intermittent diseases. And so also several and various alternating states. So there are various alternating states. There are innumerable such alternating states. When the new state makes its appearance, there is often no perceptible trace of the former one. So in this alternating diseases, when the new state comes, the old state or no perceptible trace of the former one is there. You cannot see that thing there. That set of symptom is completely gone and this state comes. And when this state goes away, no symptom will be left and the old state will or the other state will come in. In other cases, only slight traces of the former alternating state, but there will be some cases where slight traces of the previous state is still there. For example, patient had a pain. Pain is coming from the cervical region, radiating in the whole arm and numbing the hand. There is a numbness of the hand. So when this state is there, there are symptoms of the pain, a radiating pain with the numbness, with the stiffness. Okay, the patient feels weak in the arm. Then suddenly this state goes or this state goes away and some other, for example, the headache came. This is an example. So the headache starts getting worse and this starts getting better. But the patient still complains of the numbness and weakness. The pain is gone, but some trace of the former this thing that still doctor I feel that the numbness is not completely gone or the weakness is not completely gone. So there might be some traces or it can completely go away and the other alternating disease it may come. Few of the symptoms of the first state remain on the appearance and during the continuance of the second. So some symptoms they remain of the first when the second, the other alternating state comes. And when the first one comes, there might be some symptoms of the second state. For example, the pain comes back to the arm and there might be some dullness of the head, some heaviness of the head. The pain is not there, but there is some this symptom which is still there. Sometimes the morbid alternating states are quite of opposite nature, and sometimes the morbid states are completely opposite. For instance, there's a period of sadness, of melancholy, alternating with gay insanity or frenzy, with too much cheerfulness. Completely opposite states. One state is of complete, which we call as the bipolar states also, that there are two poles. Completely sad, dejected state, and then completely cheerful and vivacious state. So there are numerous alternating diseases. What Dr. Hahnemann wants to say is that there are numerous alternating diseases, and you cannot put a number to it that only this will define an alternating state. Anything, this is up to the physician to decide to characterize that this is an alternating disease and this is an intermittent disease. This is he has given the examples, he has given us the definition, he has given us the differentiating points. Now it is up to the physician that he has to make this decision that this my particular patient is basically having this particular uh, this particular state of this alternating disease or the intermittent disease. 233. The typical intermittent diseases are those where a morbid state of unvarying character returns at a tolerably fixed period. So the typical intermittent diseases are those where the morbid state of unvarying character, the character does not vary, it does not become different with each episode. So that unvarying character, it is not varying. Okay. It returns at a tolerably fixed period. Okay. Tolerably means, okay, this state, it comes after 1 week. Okay. Not 1 week, 10 days. This time it came after 10 days. Last time it came after 1 week. Then again after 7 or 8 days. So there is a tolerably fixed period, which we can understand that, okay, it comes like this. Most of the time when you ask the patient that, how frequently you get a headache, doctor, every 12 to 15 days, I like twice a month, or so there is a fixed period, thrice a month, twice a month, there is a fixed period. The character of the headache, it is unvarying, it is same every time. So we call that this is a typical intermittent disease. whilst the patient is apparently in good health and takes its departure at an equally fixed period. So there is an apparent period of good health in that period, in that fixed period, and then he takes its departure, means from health to that state of disease he comes at the equally fixed period. This is observed in those apparently non-febrile morbid states. So this is more seen in the non-febrile morbid states, not the fevers, but where the fever does not come, like I am telling you, giving you an example of headache, and go in a periodical manner at certain times. So sometimes they also go in a periodical manner, every 7 days, every 10 days, every 15 days, once a month, as well as in those of a febrile character, to wit, the numerous varieties of intermittent fevers. And also in the uh, intermittent diseases, especially the fever ones, the febrile character, where there are intermittent fevers, there also you will see this periodical manner. There also you will see that there is a period of health in between, either of few hours, like for 2 hours, 3 hours he has healthy period, then the chill starts or the heat starts or then the sweat comes. But still there, you will always find that there is this uh, apparent state of health, a period of health which comes in between. So those we call as the typical intermittent diseases. Those apparently non-febrile, typical periodically recurring morbid states just alluded to, observed in one single patient at a time, they do not usually appear sporadically or epidemically, always belong to the chronic disease. So with this, Dr. Hahnemann concludes this thing that all these kind of non-febrile symptoms, the typical non-febrile symptoms or the periodical recurring states which are coming, which I have told, alluded means already spoken of, which we have already spoken on in the previous aphorism, they basically belong to the chronic diseases, mostly to those that are purely psoric. Okay, again the same thing like the alternate diseases, mostly psoric, are but seldom complicated with syphilis and are successfully treated by the same means. So they most of the time they belong to the chronic miasm. I will I'm not trying to complicate the things by telling you about syphilis or psychosis. When we are learning, we are taking steps, we are ascending the steps. So these are the next steps. But that does not mean that everything which you have learned or till now, it goes down to zero, or that will not be effective until and unless you know about the psychosis or syphilis or how to treat them. Don't take it like this. Okay. Dr. Hahnemann, many other authors, they have come to this thing again and again, to this truth, and they have agreed with Dr. Hahnemann that more the people who understood miasms, the people who know what the miasms is, that the mother is Sora. Even syphilis and psychosis, they cannot come without Sora. Yes, in certain cases, there is a specific way. I don't want to put a number to it. I don't want to put like, okay, 90% cases, 80. No, I don't want to. But the word is mostly. That mostly are purely storic. So there is no need to go into this kind of thinking, that because many times when I tell something, then sometimes it strikes to the mind, okay, that is why I'm not getting my result, because I don't know about psychosis or syphilis. This is not the case. Even if you don't know about psychosis, if you don't know about syphilis, you have a patient who has this complicated miasm in him, you are prescribing a right antisoric, a right constitutional remedy, the person will start getting better. If it is right, they will get better. So you don't need to it is just the next step in understanding. The next step. Okay. So you don't need to complicate it. Whatever you are doing, that is right. You have to understand the follow up in the same way. You have to understand whether your medicine is right or wrong. That is the first step. the constitutional medicine or the antisoric which you have given, whether it is right or wrong, the follow-up will tell us. Okay. If it is right, go with it. If it is wrong, change it, go to a more specific one, go to the more give the medicine which is more similar to the whole scenario of the patient. So if our prescription is wrong, that is told by the symptom, that is told by the patients. We have done the Dr. Kent's observation, the 12 observation, they are a guide. Herring's law is a guide. So those things, they tell us that where the disease is moving. Okay. So this is for certain cases, few cases where something is happening, and this does not uh, like the brain is always asking for something, that okay, if this thing is not working, then there might be something which I don't know. So don't go to that point. Just understand that most of the diseases are from the psoric miasm. They have to be given a constitutional remedy, an anti-psoric remedy, and they will get better. That is the true part. Okay. But yes, now we have to refine our knowledge. We have to take a step ahead from where we have been standing. So there comes the knowledge of syphilis and the psychosis. Okay. But still, with the syphilis and psychosis, you will again need an anti-psoric, a constitutional remedy, which might be alternated, which might be given in stages, okay, to cure that case. So only antisyphilitic or antipsoric psychotic, it is not going to cure the case, because it is basically based on Sura. Okay. So I'm just telling you this, that not complicate that thing in the mind. Just, it is very clear thing. It is a very plain thing. Even if you don't understand psychosis, syphilis, it's okay. You have to just keep doing your practice. You have to keep giving medicine as the way you were giving. Okay. With time, these things, they will come to you. If you are a seeker, if you want to know, these things will come to you. You will understand them. You will see them in your patients. You will start prescribing them. Many things, they have to be understood with time. You cannot rush them. Okay. They come with time. They come with our own intellectual evolution, with our own spiritual evolution also. I will use that word also. Okay. Not like you have to meditate, but yes, when you are learning, I will talk about that thing in the end, because that is what we need to understand. Let's just finish the aphorism first. Yet it is sometimes necessary to employ as an intermediate remedy a small dose of a potentized solution of cinchona bark in order to extinguish completely their intermittent type. Now, this is something which we can add. Intermittency, this alternacy or the intermittency. Sometimes, the word is sometimes again. Please give importance to these words. Yet it is sometimes necessary, not all the time, not every time. Because few doctors, when they, you know, in the past also, I have seen many materia medica books, like there are so many things which are going on or told, which basically make the homeopathy very superficial science. With respect to all the doctors, all the homeopaths all over the world who have been there, who are there now, they are all striving to do homeopathy. They are doing homeopathy from their heart with love. I know that. But again, it comes down to our knowledge. What kind of knowledge we have, what kind of exposure we have got, what kind of experience we have got. I have heard this thing from many doctors, many doctors, like they will ask that, is it necessary to give Nux vomica before you start a case? Or is it necessary to give sulfur at the end of the case? This is a very superficial understanding. These all concepts are coming from neglection of these kind of words, where it was written sometimes, not always. Somewhere it was written there. But the reader or the practitioner, he or she ignored that part and jumped to the conclusion that intermittent diseases means China, cinchona bark. This is not there. Dr. Hahnemann, like I have told, that he is a person who believes in telling everything, all the experience he has shared with us. So in that experience, there are sometimes, there are things which happened sometimes, which were effective sometimes. He did not ignore them, that it has affected sometimes, so I should not write it. He wrote about those things also, which happened sometimes and gave good results. He wrote about those things, but he added the word sometimes necessary. So in all the intermittent diseases, China will not help. It does not help. The people, the doctors who have been doing homeopathy from a long time and they have prescribed in such cases, they have, I have seen, I have tried, I have done in with my patients out of many times in the initial practice, when you are not trying, when you there is a certain case of intermittent fever going on, you are not finding a remedy, the first thing comes to you is to give China. Okay, done that, learned from that, it does not work. Okay, so sometimes, yes, in certain cases where you are seeing that the symptoms are going away but the intermittency is not going, symptoms have become less intensified, uh, uh, they have become, that you can see that the medicine is working, but the intermittency is not going, the episodes are still coming with few symptoms, with very less intensified states for a small period of time, but the intermittency is not breaking. In those certain cases, you might need China in order to extinguish completely their intermittent type, because whatever the medicine we are giving, it is not able, or it is not sufficient to break that intermittency. Again, you have to understand this thing, that whatever remedy is right for that state, okay, if it is right remedy, the symptoms have to diminish in such a case. The sometime case, the symptom has to diminish. If the symptoms are not diminishing, no apparent amelioration is coming, that simply means that the remedy is not right. And most of the remedies, if you go into the repertory, if you see the intermittent fevers, you see all the polycrest remedies there, that they have the power to break down this intermittency. But then there are certain states, there are certain symptoms, there are certain constitutions. When you are giving the right remedy, the medicine is able to decrease the intensity, it is able to decrease the disease of the patient. But the intermittency, the episodic, sometime, some symptom or some few part of the symptom. For example, I told you that this, will take the same example, the headache and the numbness. Now you give certain remedy and it decreases the symptoms to, like, very no headache, no pain at all, just slight numbness sometimes in the hand, and after, when it is better, or it decreases, a slight heaviness in the head, but it keeps on coming. You have given the remedy again, you have repeated the dose, you have given the high potency, but this intermittency is still there somewhere. There the China will cure the case, it will break that intermittency, because now the symptoms are subsiding, the disease is going away. Only thing which is holding down the disease is the intermittency, that tendency of intermittency in the patient. So that tendency of intermittency, there the China is helpful. Okay, so again, because we have to understand carefully this thing, so don't take it that every intermittent disease or everything the China has to be given in the end or in the starting or in the middle, or if the medicine is not working. If the medicine is not working, Dr. Kent's observation says the medicine does not produce any change, it's the wrong medicine. If it does not produce any change, then you have to see a new medicine. So this is about the intermittent diseases. Okay, so we have to understand the classification and we have to understand that they belong to the chronic miasm of Sora, but again, sometimes, seldom complicated with syphilis. Okay, so with that, we will conclude the part of the aphorisms. The thing which I was talking about earlier, this thing about that when I was saying that you have to be evolved, anything which is true, like which is true to the experience. I'm not saying true in the meaning of knowledge or how many people have verified it. If 10 fools verify something, that does not make it a truth. If 10 liars verify something, it does not make it true. So that verification, that thing does not make a truth a truth. What is truth is what is experienced. I have told many times that uh, take these words of the Organon as they are written, try to apply. When they give you result, when they show themselves to you that yes, this is how it is working, then they become true. Then they become a truth for you. When something happens in front of you, then it becomes truth. So the regarding the evolution as a human being, evolution as a homeopath, especially because we are dealing with that kind of science, we are dealing with that kind of part of the universe or the world. We have to, we have always, we should not be students. There is nothing to know in homeopathy. There is no knowledge in homeopathy. Any true thing which is there anywhere in the phenomena of the universe, there is no knowledge. There is nothing to gain from the books. So you cannot know. For understanding it, for feeling it, for experiencing it, you have to seek. There's a difference between a person who is seeking truth and who is seeking knowledge. Knowledge is very easy. Knowledge is very easy. You take a book, you memorize it, and you are knowledgeable. You can talk about certain logics, you can talk about certain reasoning, and you are a knowledgeable person. There are so many people who are knowing in this world. But truth is something different. It can only be, cannot only be known, it has to be felt, it has to be experienced. Because some things which are there in your experience, some things which you, that is why I always say that materia medica cannot be learned, it cannot be known. You have to experience it. Only then those symptoms, those things, they become true to you. Recently I have encountered, I'm just giving an example, encountered, I have been reading floric acid from past 15 years, more than 15 years. Even I have attended lectures of my father when I was a uh, in 8th class, ninth standard. From that time I might have been listening to floric acid. I know floric acid. Theoretically I know floric acid. But floric acid became true to me, for me, from past few years when I started getting results in cases which show the true potential of that second aphorism, that how the cure has to happen, that ideal cure. Then the floric acid became a truth for me. So there is this difference which we have to understand as a homeopath, that knowing, yes, we have to know because I have to listen about floric. But then there has, we are not the person, we should not stop there, that okay, now I know about floric acid. Yes, you know about floric acid, but you don't know the truth about it. You have the knowledge of the floric acid, we have the knowledge of some certain things, of certain aphorisms, but are they true to you or not yet? The truth has to be seeked. We have to be seekers of the truth. uh, I'm just going to take a little time because this is a very essential thing which has to be there in a homeopath. And recently I had a discussion with some of the students that how we can understand homeopathy more efficiently. So to understand efficiently uh, homeopathy, especially in this particular scenario, because we are practicing homeopathy, and in general in understanding the other things, we have to understand what we are seeking, what we are going behind, what we are trying to find. Okay, so if the aim is to seek truth, then I think it presides everything. It is above everything. When you're seeking truth, you will be more truthful to yourself. You will be more truthful in the approach which you are applying. You will be more truthful to the mistakes. You will be more truthful to the learning, to the understanding. Because knowledge and experience, they are completely different things. I will just give you a story, an example. We all know about a very famous poet Rumi, a Persian poet Rumi. Before becoming a poet, he was not a poet. He was not poet from the starting. He did not knew anything about the poems. He did not knew anything about what he has been telling later on. But he was a scholar. He was a very, very great scholar, an Islamic scholar who gave lectures, who gave sermons. And at that time, we are talking about, around maybe 1,000 years back or 1,200 years back. At that time, people would travel from thousands of miles to listen to him because he had great knowledge. He had a big library of books. He would read from there. He would give sermons. He would, but when you listen about his what he has written about his earlier stages, that he was never satisfied with whatever he was talking about. He knew that okay, this is the knowledge which I have read, but somewhere that truth I have not experienced. That is the seeking part. If we become okay, I know everything, you stop there. There is nothing more to search. So but even you are searching continuously for something, we are continuously searching for the answers, you are continuously searching for what is true, then they start appearing in a way that you see them. So he was a seeker, and fine day his teacher appears. His teacher who took him from a scholar Rumi to the poet Rumi. And the more important thing was his this teacher. He was Shams Tabrizi, the teacher. And more important was that Shams was not a poet himself. He was not poet, but he taught him something which made him a poet and a person who has illuminated lives. The poems which has illuminated the lives of many people, who have shown the way to a new culture, who have shown the things in a very different light. So I'm just giving this example because the person who is practicing homeopathy for the whole life, he's on that path. He's always searching, he's always seeking the true nature of the disease, the true nature of the medicine, the true nature of what is being presented in front of me, the phenomena which is being presented in front of me, how I can heal it. So there are always these questions which are going on inside us. But the main thing is to be on that path. That, you know, even when you're going through the aphorisms, I always request you that during the week, just go through these aphorisms once again and try to understand each word, how they are written, what does Dr. Hahnemann mean to say. So there will come as when you're going through again and again with this manner that you want to seek the truth, uh, one day it will come that you will feel that you are getting the answers from the same text which you have been reading again and again. You're getting all your answers because recently Dr. Jonkol, because we always keep having some discussion that some of the doctors, they want to understand how to read materia medica, so that because yes, the ultimate purpose is that the knowledge should come to us from within ourselves, from what we are doing. Okay, someone can show us the way, but after the way is shown, it is us who have to walk on that path. The teacher or the master, he cannot walk for you on that path. The master or the teacher, he can just show you that this is the path, these might be the obstacle, this is what you might experience, this is what you might go through, but you have to walk on it. So I always say that for this to come in that kind of understanding, that it should go deep in us, the homeopathy as a science, as a subject, because we say that homeopathy is science and an art. Art has to be felt. There's a painting in front of you. You cannot tell that how much red color is used, how much yellow color is used. I cannot tell you about a painting by describing from my words that there was a red color in that, there was an orange color in that, there was a yellow color in that, some part of that was white, some. I cannot explain to you. If I say that there were clouds, there were rivers, there were hills, it is a very vague description of that. Art has to be felt. It has it The true nature of art comes when you go deep into that thing, when everyone cannot understand art. That is also the thing. Why? Because they don't have that kind of soil, because they don't have that kind of what you say, a mental or a spiritual way of looking at art. There are four persons who are standing at a place and they are seeing the mountains in front of them. The one person is okay with it, and there is one person who says, wow. So that wow person is the one who came very close to understanding that thing which was in front of that thing. So anything which is art, anything which is natural, anything which is like that, it can only be felt. That is why I many times I have to say this thing, that homeopathy cannot be understood from a material mind. It comes very difficult to a material mind. The people who completely understand the material world and they don't have any you even in your patients you will see this thing. The people who are very materialistic in their approach, who completely are relying on the material world, they will very rarely come to homeopathy. Okay? So many times I say this thing also to, that they do not believe. Like someone tells me that, I have told them that to come to homeopathy, but they do not believe. So I always say that, okay, when, somewhere there, they will be fortunate enough to come, then they will come. Because that is also a part of, sometimes around this thing. Okay. So the main thing is that we for to understand homeopathy, this is a main thing, that we have to be seeker of the truth. We have to have this thing in our deep in our disposition, deep in our mentality. We have to define this purpose, that yes, I am here to seek the truth. I have to understand the truth about my patient, the remedy, I should not. That is why Dr. Hahnemann many times write that do not speculate, do not theorize. It takes you away from the truth. So we have to incorporate that thing, that feeling in us, that I am a seeker of truth. I seek truth, and the truth will come to me from the same things when I read it, when I understand it. Same is with materia medica, same is with the organon. Okay. Once you have this thing in your mind, you sit calmly and it starts appearing in front of you. This time in this week, go through the same aphorisms with this thing in the mind. Slightly meditate on this thing, just 5 minutes, that I am here for this thing. I just want to know the truth about this thing. What is there? I'm not trying to remember it. I'm not trying to memorize it. I'm just here to see the truth. And you will automatically see that this thing will start coming. It feels like, that is coming down in you, all this part which is written here. You will see a very small difference in the words. You will see the sometimes more, seldom more in the whole aphorism. Okay. So those differentiations, they start coming. So with that, I will take your leave. Very good night to all of you, and keep learning. Thank you.